Welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about players getting suspended in the NFL for gambling, either on NFL games or gambling at NFL facilities. And this all started with Calvin Ridley. And if you think back to him, he stepped away from the game to focus on his mental health back in 2021. And while after he stepped away, during the 2022 offseason, Calvin Ridley was suspended indefinitely for betting on NFL games while he was away from the team. Now, this was the first, albeit inevitable, domino to fall as online sports gambling began gaining steam across the country. But while Ridley was suspended, the Falcons traded him to the Jaguars. Since that point, he's been reinstated by the NFL and will be back on the field in 2023. Calvin Ridley is going to end up serving as an example, not just to NFL players, but to all athletes. Like, betting on your sport is not going to be acceptable or tolerated, and it shouldn't be. You mess up the integrity of the game when you do something like that. And then you move on to the most recent wave of players that got suspended. There were 5 players: Stanley Bearhill III, Jameson Williams, Quintez Cephas, CJ Moore, and Shaka Toney. Now, 4 of those players were on the Lions. That was Bearhill, Williams, Cephas, and Moore. Shaka Toney plays for the Commanders. Now, of all the names on the list, Jameson Williams is easily the most notable. He was the 12th pick of the 2022 draft, wide receiver for the Lions. And the Lions actually had 3 wide receivers in this. And Williams is only going to get a 6-game suspension because he wasn't betting on NFL games. He was betting on college games, but did it at the Lions practice facility, which is the same thing with Stanley Berryhill. He was betting on collegiate games at the practice facility, not NFL games. So they both got 6-game suspension. So they won't have Jameson Williams for the first 6 games of their season, but both those guys can still participate in all the off-season activities like training camp and mini camps and everything. And they can play in the preseason games. The other 3 players, Cephas, Moore, and Toney, the NFL gave them the Calvin Ridley treatment. They got indefinite suspensions. And those aren't always lifted. You know what I mean? A guy like Calvin Ridley gets reinstated because he's a great player, just like Josh Gordon did so many times. These other guys, there's no telling if they'll ever be reinstated after this one. Cephas and Moore were released from the Lions just minutes after the news came out that they were going to be suspended indefinitely. And Shaka still, at the moment, is on the Commanders, but he's a 7th-round pick. So there's no telling if they're going to keep him around. So what does all of this mean? The NFL is sending a clear message to anyone who wants to gamble. If you gamble on NFL games or at any NFL facility, you will be held accountable. And no one's off limits. Like, this started with Calvin Ridley. That's a huge name in the NFL. Like, no one's off limits when it comes to gambling. So, the league, the last thing they want is for the public to think that players are going to be, affecting games for gambling purposes. We're still early on in the gambling legalization, the online gambling legalization process. And as it continues to grow in popularity, we should expect to see more of this, but hopefully, what we've seen so far, guys will just be smarter about the decisions they make. They'll be, hopefully guys don't try to get slick and try to do something crazy. Can't have guys going in and throwing games, even if they're betting on themselves. Like, I understand that part of it too, but at the end of the day, you just can't have these guys betting on their own sport. You just can't have it. It's kind of weird that they can't bet on college games at the facilities, but the regulations are what they are for the NFL. So you let me know what you think about all these players getting suspended. Do you think any of these guys should have had different penalties? What do you think the NFL should do about it? You let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to keep coming back every day for more off-season content, and we'll see you for the next video.